Being a better anti-racist ally as a white autistic. A lot of white autistics can be really shitty about being anti-racist, and even if they don't intend it, they use autism as an excuse to do so. Something that I used to do as a white autistic is kind of follow through with my analytical mindset and basically end up playing devil's advocate or questioning people of color when we were talking about racism. And even though I understand that that is not the goal, that was not my goal, and that's often not the goal of people who have these thought processes, that's exactly what it does. And a lot of people who use their autism as an excuse to do so do not understand the immense privilege they have to be able to say, well, I'm a white autistic, so I'm exempt from anti-racism. The neurodivergent community and neurodivergent experiences are so white dominated. Like, can you go on and say that to a black autistic person? So here's a few tips on navigating anti-racism conversations as an autistic person. If you have a habit of taking things very literally and struggling to change routine or things you're used to doing, and someone tells you that it's racist, what you're gonna do is you're gonna hear them out, you're gonna listen to them, and you're gonna write yourself notes on what they're saying and what your questions, thoughts, and concerns are. Now, instead of asking that person those questions, you are going to take those questions and you are going to do your own research. You also need to acknowledge that just because you take things literally and just because you look at things at their technical and analyst way doesn't erase the moral or social historical impacts of what those things imply. If a person of color is happy to answer any questions that you have, you need to be very careful with what your placement is in asking those questions and the way that you respond to their answers. Just because you don't understand something doesn't mean it's not true. Just because you don't understand something doesn't mean you're entitled to that information. You may need to take extra steps to accommodate your own thought processing, and that's okay. And that is not something you should be expecting of people of color just because you're autistic. Whether that includes more time to self-reflect, whether that includes taking notes and putting questions down on a piece of paper and then researching them, or trying to find content that answers your questions for you, you need to be mindful of how much space you take up, and you need to be mindful of what you're asking from people when you don't understand something. Topics like racism do not need a devil's advocate. People of color do not need to put in free time and labor to educate you about your white privilege. I find that mind maps help me. So when I didn't understand something, I would make a bubble with all the different thoughts and questions that I had. And what I would do is also have notes on what that person said. And so what I would try to do is draw connections between those things and then put in extra research into the things that aren't answered.